A chart built around control, money, and ambiguity. Jeffrey Epstein is one of the most controversial figures connected to wealth and elite networks in modern American history. His name became associated not only with finance and influence, but with secrecy, exploitation, and a system that seemed protected by status. This is not an easy chart to interpret in a neutral way, because the personality it describes is not neutral. It is complex, strategic, and power-driven. Epstein's chart doesn't show warmth or emotional transparency as a central trait. Instead, it emphasizes control, access, and leverage, especially through money, reputation, and private connections. The dominant theme is calculation, not necessarily loud dominance, but quiet control, the ability to build an image, enter elite circles, and operate behind the visible structure of society. Ascendant and first impression, why he looked confident and capable. Epstein is a Capricorn ascendant, 12 degrees 3 minutes Capricorn. Capricorn rising is one of the clearest astrological signatures of a person who knows how to look serious, competent, and above chaos. It creates an impression of someone disciplined, controlled, and not emotionally exposed. Even when the person is hiding instability inside, Capricorn rising protects the image. This matches the descriptions from people who knew him, that he could produce a strong impression, appear confident, and speak as if he understood everything. Capricorn rising often gives exactly that, a controlled exterior, a professional tone, and a feeling that the person belongs in high-level environments. But in Epstein's case, the effect becomes stronger because his sun is in the first house. And his Mercury is also in the first house, close to the ascendant. This means identity and communication are both part of his mask. He doesn't just look serious, he actively performs seriousness. He speaks like a person with authority, and he is naturally persuasive in presenting himself as someone who knows how the world works. This is why he could create the image of a man who can arrange anything. In this chart, the ability to control perception is not secondary, it is central. Childhood expression, Capricorn ascendant plus Mercury in the first house. Capricorn rising often shows itself early. Children with Capricorn ascendant tend to look older than their age physiologically. They can be quiet, cautious, and unusually aware of social hierarchy. Even as kids, they often understand who has authority, who has influence, and how to behave to avoid vulnerability. They usually don't like looking weak. They learn self-control early, sometimes because the environment demands it, sometimes because the child senses that softness is unsafe. Capricorn rising children often develop a serious mask, even when they are emotionally sensitive underneath. Mercury in the first house adds something very specific. The child becomes defined by speech and mental performance. These children often learn that being smart is protection. They use intelligence as a shield. They can be verbally sharp, quick to adapt, and able to talk their way into better situations. In Epstein's biography, this combination fits his early pattern. He wasn't born into elite wealth, but he learned how to look competent and valuable. He learned how to speak in a way that sounded higher status. This is exactly what Capricorn ascendant and Mercury in the first house can produce, a person who uses communication to climb. Even in youth, this placement often creates someone who is constantly observing, collecting information, and adjusting presentation. They don't just live life, they study it. If you are enjoying this look at Jeffrey Epstein's natal chart, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Why he wanted to enter elite circles. The status instinct. The drive to access people above level is very clear in Epstein's natal structure. Capricorn rising is status aware. It instinctively understands hierarchy and aims upward. Capricorn doesn't just want comfort, it wants legitimacy and power. Epstein also has Sun in Aquarius in the first house. Sun at 0 degrees Aquarius, identity built on systems, not emotions. Epstein's Sun is at 0 degrees Aquarius, and this detail matters. The 0 degree point is often described as a threshold degree. It gives a placement a raw, concentrated quality, as if the person is learning that sign's energy in a very direct, uncompromising way. Aquarius is not a warm sign. It is a strategic sign. It is oriented towards systems, networks, and social architecture. People with strong Aquarius often think in structures rather than feelings. They ask, how does power work? How do groups work? How do hierarchies operate? And how can I position myself within them? With the sun at 0 degrees Aquarius, the identity can become highly focused on detachment and self-definition through uniqueness. These people often want to be different, but not in a theatrical way, in a structural way. They don't just want attention, they want leverage. They want to understand the mechanism behind society and use it. This placement can produce a person who is emotionally cool on the surface, but intensely motivated by social positioning. The personality becomes less about emotional authenticity and more about role, access, and influence. Aquarius is the sign of networks, systems, and social architecture. This placement often describes a person who doesn't seek power in a traditional way, but through connections, influence, and positioning inside structures. Aquarius is not emotional. It is strategic about people. The most telling indicator is the midheaven in Scorpio, MC 6 degrees, 41 minutes, Scorpio. Scorpio at the top of the chart is associated with hidden power, control over resources, and influence through secrecy. A Scorpio MC often creates a public trajectory connected to taboo, underground networks, or power behind the scenes. So the pattern becomes consistent. Capricorn rising wants status, Aquarius sun wants network positioning, and Scorpio MC points toward power gained through private leverage. The double life signature: secrecy, manipulation, hidden operations. If we want to explain why Epstein's life contains such a strong theme of hidden activity, the chart gives several direct markers. The first is his Scorpio MC, which often describes a career path that is not fully visible, not fully explainable, and not fully transparent. Scorpio does not operate in the open. It operates through private channels. Pluto in Leo: power through visibility, domination through relationships. Epstein has Pluto in Leo, placed in the 7th house. This is one of the most important placements for understanding the power dynamics in his life. Pluto represents control, compulsion, and hidden dominance. Leo represents status, ego, and visibility. When Pluto is in Leo, power becomes personal. It becomes tied to identity and superiority. The person doesn't just want influence, they want to feel untouchable. In the 7th house, Pluto doesn't play out in isolation. It plays out through other people. Relationships become a source of control. Partnerships become leverage. Connections become currency. This placement often creates a person who understands human relationships as a hierarchy. It can indicate a pattern where the person seeks to dominate the emotional atmosphere around them and maintain the upper position in every alliance. It also explains why Epstein's story is so connected to elite circles. Pluto in Leo wants proximity to high status, and in the 7th house, it gains that status through who the person associates with. This is also why reactions to him become extreme. Pluto doesn't create neutral social dynamics. It creates obsession, secrecy, and fear, and it tends to pull the person into scandals that permanently reshape reputation. The second is his relationship axis. Epstein's 7th house, Cancer, contains Pluto, Lilith, and Uranus. This is extremely significant. The 7th house is not only marriage, it is all other people, contracts, alliances, and private relationships. When Pluto is in the 7th house, relationships become power structures. People are not simply loved, they are used, controlled, tested, or transformed. Uranus in the 7th adds instability and unconventional relational behavior. It often shows relationships that break norms, cross boundaries, and involve secrecy or shock value. Lilith adds the theme of taboo and shadow desire. Put together, this is a signature of a person whose relational world is not normal and not transparent. Finally, Epstein has Vesta in the 12th house. The 12th house is traditionally associated with hidden life, secret spaces, isolation, and things done outside public awareness. Vesta is focus, devotion, and private ritual. This often points to a private world where the person is intensely committed to something hidden. The second house, money as a system, Aquarius plus Pisces plus Aries. Epstein's second house begins in Aquarius, includes Pisces, and ends in Aries. This is not a straightforward money signature. It doesn't show stable, traditional wealth building through normal career steps. It shows money as a system of access and experimentation. Aquarius in the second suggests wealth gained through networks, unusual financial arrangements, and connections with powerful people. Pisces inside the second house adds fog and ambiguity, unclear origins, private arrangements, and hidden flows. Aries at the end adds boldness and risk, reflecting money used aggressively as a tool for dominance. Venus, Mars, and Pisces in the second house, desire tied to wealth. One of the most important placements for understanding Epstein's values is the conjunction of Venus and Mars in Pisces in the second house. Venus and Mars together connect desire with action. In the second house, they connect desire with money, possession, and control of resources. Pisces dissolves boundaries and can create a psychology where desire becomes secretive, fantasy-driven, and difficult to regulate. In shadow form, Pisces can become evasive and boundaryless. This placement suggests a person who experiences desire as something fluid and hidden, and because it sits in the second house, it ties that desire to wealth and access. Registered sex offender. What in the chart points to boundary violations? Astrology cannot diagnose crimes, but it can describe patterns connected to taboo behavior and boundary problems. In Epstein's chart, the strongest signatures are the 7th house Pluto plus Lilith combination. Venus, Mars, and Pisces, and Mercury square Neptune orbiting 2 degrees 31 minutes with Sun also square Neptune. Neptune hard aspect to personal planets can create distortion, double narratives, and living in parallel realities. It can show someone skilled at creating illusion, including the illusion of innocence. The question of his death, why it became a global suspicion story. Epstein's death became controversial because the circumstances created a vacuum. Too many unanswered questions, too much at stake, too many powerful names potentially connected. Astrologically, his chart supports the theme of endings surrounded by secrecy. His MC is in Scorpio, linked to death and hidden power. And his fortune is in Scorpio in the 10th house, tying public destiny to scandal, secrecy, and irreversible endings. Strong Neptune influence adds fog around facts, making public truth unstable and increasing suspicion. The chart doesn't prove what happened, but it explains why his story naturally becomes a cultural mystery. Jeffrey Epstein's natal chart describes a person who understands the world through hierarchy, access, and private power. Capricorn rising builds credibility. Aquarius sun builds networks. Scorpio MC pulls life into secrecy and taboo influence. The second house structure shows money as a system, and Venus, Mars, and Pisces ties desire to wealth, fantasy, and blurred boundaries. This is why his biography reads like a hidden empire. The chart supports a life shaped not by openness, but by control, not by warmth, but by strategy, not by transparency, but by secrecy.